can listen to that song all day, I swear. Anyway, my name's Frank, and my rant of the day surrounds Sandra Fluke and some of the priorities of our society, of what we should honor and not honor. Was Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney really wrong when he stated that he lost the election last November to incumbent Barack Obama because of all the free stuff he was giving away via government programs such as welfare, food stamps, unemployment compensation, illegal aliens, ACON, Planned Parenthood, cell phones, etc.? Romney, who often vowed during the campaign that if elected, he was going to put America back to work, heaven forbid for that, added in his post-election comments that it was tough to compete against Sanders. Meet Sandra Fluke, a college student at Georgetown University, who went on the national bitching circuit to complain how government ought to provide her free birth control pills. President Obama and his cronies loved Miss Fluke so much that she even got to take her rant as a guest speaker to the Democratic National Convention last summer. Earlier this month, Time magazine reportedly was seriously considering naming Miss Fluke for its annual Person of the Year honor. Just for the record here, Time magazine didn't stray too far off its own lunatic liberal ideology as it wound up naming President Obama as its 2012 Person of the Year. Surprise, surprise. One thing I will say about the re-election of Barack Obama, the majority of American people elected a president most reflective, if not a mirror image, of themselves when it comes to beliefs, opinions, etc. But why the hell would somebody like Sandra Fluke even be in the bleeping conversation for such an annual honor by one of America's supposed most respected media outlets? So the Navy SEALs, for example, who gave their lives in an attempt to save lives of others at the U.S. Embassy in Libya this past September 11th, weren't even given consideration for this honor by Time magazine. Nor were the brave teachers who also gave their lives to try to save their students against a crazed psychopath gunman in Newtown, Connecticut earlier this month. Instead, Time magazine wants us all to pay tribute to a young college female student who feels it's extremely unfair that she pays for her own contraceptive devices, like birth control pills, which our federal government ought to provide for free so she can continue to have sexual intercourse and not have to worry about getting pregnant. Personally, I say to that, if Time magazine is so concerned about Miss Fluke's sex life, namely to continue having lots of quote-unquote fun, going out, getting laid by the guy her heart desires, and not worry about getting pregnant, then the publishers and stockholders behind Time magazine ought to pay for Miss Fluke's birth control pills and not the American taxpayers. Please forgive me if I don't feel too sympathetic to Miss Fluke's biggest problem in life. It sort of reminds me of a few years back when Barbara Walters publicly named her own Most Fascinating People of the Year honors and actually picked Kate Gosselin as one of these individuals. Miss Gosselin's claim to fame was that she was in her late 30s, her quote-unquote biological clock was ticking, and still didn't have any kids yet. So she decided to take some fertility drugs. After giving birth to twins, Miss Gosselin soon got pregnant again with 6 kids. So instead of being the happy housewife and mother, Miss Gosselin, along with her then husband John, decided to exploit their situations for every single could with a reality TV show, book tours, etc. In other words, rather than being humbled and blessed with a family of kids they thought they'd never ever have, the Gosselins just used these 8 kids as their personal lottery ticket for multi-million-dollar bank accounts. I guess what Barbara Walters considers quote-unquote fascinating, most people would just view as scumbag opportunists. Just because Miss Gosselin took fertility drugs and managed to give birth to 6 healthy children at once, does that make her one of the world's most fascinating people? Heck, I recently saw a cat in my neighborhood that gave birth to a litter of 9 kittens. Do you think Barbara Walters ought to name that cat as one of the most fascinating people of the year? Also, are we supposed to assume that just because Kate Gosselin gave birth to 6 kids at once, that she somehow, some way is a good mother? I don't think so. Her marriage to the guy in question, John, failed miserably and wound up in divorce. Is Barbara Walters that positive that all 8 of Miss Gosselin's kids will grow up to be successful and productive members of society? Would Miss Walters be willing to do a special TV report about 15, 20 years from now, assuming, of course, Miss Walters is still alive at that time, to show the whole world whatever happened to those Gosselin kids? I, for one, would absolutely love to see just how the Gosselin kids turn out in adulthood. For what it's worth, I hope and pray that the Gosselin kids turn out great. I wouldn't wish, for example, on my worst enemy to wind up in something like drug rehab or suicide. But if all 8 of the Gosselin clan grow up to be very productive and successful members of society, I think I give credit to the nanny raising them, while their mom, Kate, goes off on book tour or competing on an episode of Dancing with the Stars. Let's give credit where credit is appropriately due, I always say. But I think the analogies behind Sandra Fluke and Kate Gosselin should give everyone a pretty good gauge of just how bleeped up our world is right now. Where are our priorities? This country is truly going to hell in a handbasket. I'm Frank, and that's my rant for today. Thank you very much.